Ah, Black Friday. The chaos of packed stores, the thrill of the hunt for deals, the madness that drives people to camp out for hours. But have you ever stopped to think about how far people might go for that perfect discount? What could be lurking in the shadows of those aisles or behind the storeroom doors? Tonight, we delve into the true terrors of Black Friday. 3 stories of shoppers who got more than they bargained for. Whether they were chasing the best price or trying to survive the crowds, they didn't realize they had entered the realm of Mr. Scary Guy. Prepare yourself for a journey beyond the ordinary, into the shadows of your deepest fears. Welcome to the world of Mr. Scary Guy. Black Friday had always been a tradition for me. My wife Lisa and I would wake up at 3 a.m., drive to the nearest mall, and join the madness. It wasn't about the shopping, really. It was about the rush, the shared insanity. But last year, something happened that I still can't explain, and I've never gone back. The mall was packed as usual. People were elbowing their way through the corridors, clutching carts filled with discounted televisions, toys, and appliances. Lisa had her eye on a blender from a department store on the top floor.
It's 70% off,
she said, dragging me through the crowd. When we reached the store, the chaos had reached a fever pitch. Displays were overturned, customers yelling, and a manager was trying to restore order. Lisa pointed at the shelf where the blenders had been. There was only one left, and a woman was reaching for it.
Wait here,
Lisa said, and bolted. I stayed near the entrance, watching her navigate the insanity. Suddenly I felt a tug at my sleeve. I turned, and there was a man standing too close. He was pale, almost translucent, wearing a name tag that read, Paul. His uniform looked slightly off, older somehow, like something from a decade ago.
Sir,
he said, his voice flat.
I can help you find a better deal.
I blinked. What?
Come with me,
he said, already turning toward the back of the store. I hesitated but followed him. Paul led me past racks of clothing, through the electronics section, and finally into a narrow hallway that seemed to stretch endlessly into the shadows. This doesn't seem right, I said, stopping. Paul didn't respond. He just kept walking until we reached a set of double doors. He pushed them open to reveal a storeroom filled with shelves of unopened boxes. It was unnaturally quiet.
The deals are here,
he said, pointing to a dusty shelf. On it was a box labeled Blender 70% off. It was exactly what Lisa wanted. I stepped forward and grabbed it. The box was cold to the touch, unnaturally so. I turned back to thank him, but Paul was gone. Then I heard the sound, low, guttural breathing coming from behind one of the shelves. The fluorescent lights flickered, and I saw movement out of the corner of my eye. Something tall and thin, its limbs too long to be human, darted between the aisles. I dropped the blender and ran. The storeroom seemed to twist and stretch, the exit always just out of reach. Finally, I burst through the double doors and into the crowded store. Lisa found me minutes later, clutching the last blender from the shelf.
Where did you go?
She asked. I couldn't answer. Later, I asked an employee about Paul. They told me there hadn't been a Paul working there in years, not since he died in a storeroom accident on Black Friday. I wasn't supposed to work Black Friday. As a part-time stalker at a major retailer, I usually got the easier shifts, unpacking deliveries and organizing stock long after the rush had subsided. But that year, my manager practically begged me to cover the overnight Black Friday crowd.
It's double pay,
he said.
You'll mostly be in the back, away from customers.
I needed the money. Rent was overdue, and my car needed repairs. So, reluctantly, I agreed. The store opened at midnight, and the first wave of customers came crashing in like a tidal wave. The noise was deafening. Screaming kids, shouting parents, and the constant beep of registers scanning item after item. My job, thankfully, was simple: restock the shelves and avoid the stampede. By 3 a.m., the madness had calmed down. Most of the hot-ticket items, flat-screen TVs, gaming consoles, and kitchen appliances, had already been snatched up. I was reassigned to tidy up the far aisles of the store, the ones that didn't see much foot traffic. Those aisles were dimmer, with flickering fluorescent lights that cast long, unsteady shadows. The stock there was mostly clearance items, outdated DVDs, random gadgets, and shelves of unwanted decorations from last season. I didn't mind the quiet, though. Compared to the chaos in the main part of the store, it was almost peaceful. Almost. As I organized a stack of Christmas lights, I began to feel it, that strange sensation you get when someone is watching you. I glanced down the aisle expecting to see a late-night customer, but there was no one there. I shrugged it off and went back to my work. The store was full of strange sounds: carts squeaking, faint music playing over the intercom, muffled chatter from the registers. But this felt different. The longer I stayed, the stronger the sensation grew. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Every so often I'd catch a glimpse of something darting between the shelves, just at the edge of my vision. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small in the vast emptiness of the aisle. No response. The lights flickered again, and in that brief moment of darkness, I saw it. A figure stood at the far end of the aisle. It was tall, unnaturally so, its limbs too long and its shoulders impossibly broad. Its body was a solid black silhouette, darker than the shadows around it. I froze. My mind raced for an explanation. Was it a mannequin? A trick of the light? "Who's there?" I demanded, my voice trembling. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, its head cocked slightly as if studying me. I grabbed my walkie-talkie, my hand shaking. "Hey, I think someone's in the back aisles," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Static crackled in response, but no one answered. I took a step forward, gripping my flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, but when it landed on the spot where the figure had been, it was gone. My heart was pounding as I radioed again. This time, my manager's voice came through.
"Probably just a customer,"
he said, dismissive.
"Keep working. We're swamped up here."
The rest of the shift was a blur of shadows and whispers. No matter where I went, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Occasionally, I'd hear faint footsteps or the rustling of fabric, but when I turned, the aisles were empty. At one point, I caught another glimpse of the figure, closer this time, its head poking out from behind a shelf. It vanished before I could react, leaving me questioning my sanity. I managed to survive the rest of the night, but barely. By the time my shift ended at 6 a.m., I was a wreck. A week later, I mentioned the incident to a coworker. He went pale.
"You saw it too?"
he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, and he leaned in closer.
"Years ago, during a Black Friday rush, a guy got trampled in the back aisles. It was so packed no one noticed until it was too late. They say his spirit still lingers, watching and waiting."
I haven't worked Black Friday since. Black Friday shopping was a family tradition for us. Every year, my wife and I would map out a plan, dividing up stores to maximize our haul. She loved the frenzy of the crowds, the thrill of hunting down the best deals. I, on the other hand, preferred to get in and out as quickly as possible. This year, I was tasked with hitting the electronics store to grab a gaming console for our son. It was the hottest item of the season, and I wasn't optimistic about my chances. When I got to the store, it was chaos. People were yelling, shelves were being stripped bare, and employees looked like they were barely holding it together. I grabbed a cart and wove through the throng, my eyes scanning for the console display. Miraculously, I found one, just one, tucked behind a stack of other boxes. I snatched it up, ignoring the dirty looks from nearby shoppers, and made a beeline for the checkout. By the time I stepped into the parking lot, it was almost 2 a.m. and the crowd had thinned. The night was cold and quiet, the kind of silence that felt unnatural after the chaos inside. My car was parked far from the entrance, under a broken street lamp. As I approached, I noticed something off. A figure was standing by my car, half hidden in the shadows. "Can I help you?" I called out, my voice echoing in the empty lot. The figure didn't respond. It just stood there, motionless. I stopped in my tracks, clutching the console tighter. The figure tilted its head slightly, as if observing me. "Hey!" I shouted, taking a step closer. "What are you doing?" Suddenly, the figure moved, quickly, unnaturally, darting around to the back of the car. I froze, my heart hammering in my chest. Every instinct told me to turn and run, but my car was right there. I couldn't leave the console behind, not after everything I'd gone through to get it. Summoning my courage, I crept forward. My breath was visible in the cold air, each exhale shaky with fear. I reached the car and peeked around the side. Nothing. The figure was gone. Relieved, I unlocked the doors and threw the console into the back seat. As I climbed into the driver's seat, I glanced at the rearview mirror and froze. The figure was crouched on the roof, its face pressed against the glass. Its features were obscured, but its eyes were black voids, staring directly at me. I screamed and slammed on the gas, tearing out of the parking lot. The car swerved as I tried to shake it off, but when I looked again, the roof was empty. I didn't stop driving until I reached home. My hands were still shaking as I parked in the driveway. When I stepped out, I noticed the scratches, long, deep gouges running across the roof of my car, and etched into the paint, just above the driver's side door, were two words: "Mine now." I haven't gone Black Friday shopping since. Black Friday, a day of deals, chaos, and terror. Next time you're out hunting for discounts, remember, some bargains come with a price. This is Mr. Scary Guy saying, good night, sleep tight, if you dare. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe by clicking the icon above. We've also got a playlist full of scary stories on your left side, and a suggested video you'll love on the right. Choose one and keep the scares going.